Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts to the story. And finally, listen to my opinion. My opinion's on indicative for the world, so please respect that. So, the story I am doing today is Artistic Focus by Sir Tate Moonlight. It is a Xenoblade Chronicles story, and listen, I like Melia. You like Melia. We all like our bird waifu. she is she is easily my favorite character from the game. If you don't know, I actually did a let's play of the game. I didn't like the quality because I played on the Dolphin and the game just would not run half the time. But I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the story I was being told, and my favorite character was, of course, Melia. So when I found out, hey, there's a story focused on Melia's childhood and it's sort of how she became the person that she was, I was interested right from the off. And I do like the story. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I do like the story. I think the story is really good, and I really love what it does with Melia's character. Plot. It's just Melia's childhood. It's literally it. There's there's not much in the way of the plot. It's more or less like a traditional plot and more like a sort of here is what the author thinks Melia was like growing up, how she became an ether mage, how she learned all her skills minus the starlight kick. That's actually kind of funny how she learned that one. Her growth and her reactions to certain things that are going on around the Bionis. So there's not really much in the way outside of a traditional plot because it's more of the plot is more of a backdrop to kind of explore how Melia became the person she is and how she grew into what you see in the game. And that's fine. This is very much a character centric story. So I'm just gonna ignore the plot. Granted, there is like the last couple of chapters which focus more on the events of Xenoblade Chronicles. However, I'm gonna have to talk about that very negatively because I'm not a fan of those chapters. Which, honestly, truth be told, I honestly think those stories should not be here. They shouldn't. Uh, Character Melia. Oh boy. There's other characters like there's Callian and her father and her mother, and like the bullies and the assassins and like her teacher, Mr. Riddle. But this is really just Melia's story, and I think before even like getting into this, Melia is just phenomenally written in this story. I think showcasing her growth and how she learns all of her ether skills and how that translates to her who she is as a person, and seeing how she reacts to like various incidents that are happening and also the prejudice because she's half Holmes, and showcasing how she eventually grows into the person that she wants to be, and eventually having to come to terms with at the end where all her people pretty much just gotta die, sort of, kind of. It's weird. It's really weird. And showcasing all these little tips and tricks that she's figuring out, and her growth, like only like her mental growth but also her physical growth, actually, as there's a lot of moments where like she's at the beginning, she's very physically frail, but as the story goes on she becomes like more physically fit, of course coinciding with the fact that she's growing. This story takes place over the course of many years because high entias in lore live for much longer. Like I believe, let's see, I think there is a nope, is it this chapter? I believe it's this chapter. Yeah, right here. She is 65 when the story starts. When the story ends, she's nearly 90. and then and 65 is young by her species standpoint. Just FYI. So she's still so for all intents and purposes, she's technically a teenager at this point. I think it is very much appreciated, like how the author handles all of her entire character, and despite showcasing, in essence, a lot of character moments, she doesn't have much of a character arc. That's kind of the weird thing with the story. It's like, despite the fact Melia doesn't really have much of a character arc, she does have a character arc of her becoming her own person and her becoming more independent and wanting to see uh like more acceptance of Hyantia uh culture and stuff like that. Especially be more open with her species being with like the Hums and stuff like that. That's more centric towards the events of Xenoblade Chronicles, because Hyentias kind of look down on the Hums because they're like they they more or less kind of just want to be by themselves. The whole Palms, if, as long as they hide their presence, which happens partway through the story, we have to go rescue a bunch of Hums, and one of them just happens to be Shulk, and of course, Melia was sent on the mission because of Alvis, who is basically God. But this is more or less a story that focuses on like showcasing all the little nuances and growth and all the nitty gritty with Melia's character. And that's more or less just, how it goes. Sometimes this story doesn't really have much in the way of showcasing how Melia becomes from point A to point B. It's more just, here is Melia. Here is everything Melia is gonna learn, and everything, and how she becomes her own person. And I think from that point of view, Melia is a phenomenally done character. She's not complicated to figure out. She's not a very nuanced character. The author is very straightforward with what the author wants to do with her character, and that's actually the benefit to what the author is trying to tell Melia, being that she's very much a straightforward character, and kind of just say, here's, she doesn't want to, do like double speak or any of like the political stuff when it comes to politics. She knows that that kind of comes hand in hand with the world of politics, but she herself doesn't particularly want to partake in that, especially since in throughout the a bulk of the story, she's of the belief that, her brother is gonna become emperor, so she's like, I don't need to actually get involved in this. I can just be like, I can just wave my little staff around and just be a mage and stuff like that. And it shows how much as the story goes along, because a lot of the story is either her kind of getting into various shenanigans with like assassination attempts, or she's in a room learning from her teacher Benjamin Rettel. And that even comes at the end, where the very last big thing that happens in the story is when they go back to Alchemoth, try to get like a bunch of stuff, because all the Hyentias turned into Telethia. Yeah, spoiler alerts, Hyentias turned into Telethias. And they're trying to get a bunch of her luggage and stuff like that. And right before they leave, a barrier surrounds her, and this big Hyentia called Osmotic Benjamin, wink wink, kind of shows up, challenges Melia to a one-on-one fight. And instead of acting like a traditional Telethia, it actually behaves more like a puzzle boss, like throwing various tactics and moves at Melia, and she has to try and counter it while also trying to protect her teammates who can't interact because there's a barrier blocking everything. And eventually the high entity actually surrenders, manages to talk to Melia for a second, say, congratulations, I taught you everything that you needed to know, and throws up a staff and flies up in the air and disappears. And then she finds out it was actually Mr. Rettel that turned into a Telethia, and he managed to have enough sense to kind of wanting to give Melia like a final exam, kind of, and a symbolic way to tell her, you passed, you learned everything, you surpassed the teacher. I think that's a very good symbolic way in the context of Xenoblade Chronicles of how to approach that. Basically, Gretel becoming like a creature said, I need you to kill me, but but I still have enough sense to want to have this final test with you to prove that you're worthy of becoming Empress, because she does eventually become Empress at the end. And I do think everything about Melia's character is beautifully well done with all the nuances. Like even like the little the picture shows like the 3 staff she has. Like this is her practice staff where she like, oh, I want to summon like an aqua elemental, and she like it'll just slide up with the thing to show that, she's doing it. Her practice staff right here, and in the middle is the staff that she gets when she actually finishes, and her own staff that she actually gets in the game. There's not much in the way of the other characters. They're more or less just there to kind of bounce off Melia. Basically, Killian bounces off Melia, Saurian bounces off Melia, Gretel bounces off Melia. Every single character exists to kind of bounce off Melia. Sure, all of them are entertaining and they all do their job really well. Could there have been more done with them? Well, yeah, you can make the argument. Yeah, they could have been done. There could have been more done with the characters, but I think for the purposes they're trying to serve, which is to help Melia and showcase her character, they work phenomenally. Even like the more antagonistic characters, like the assassination or like the bullies that become part of the mob, they all work because they all showcase Melia's growth and her little shenanigans and her adventures that showcase who she is as a person, and growing and becoming the character we see in the game. They all work. So I don't have any complaints from a character standpoint, because they all do their job perfectly. Even the plot, even like the minor niggling issues I would have with the plot, like with the Xenoblade Chronicles stuff. Again, I'll talk about that when I get to like the pacing. They're all done really well. I have no complaints with the plot. I have no complaints with the character. Grammar, nothing wrong with the grammar. Pacing. Here's where things kind of get iffy. There's 2 issues I have with this. Like when it comes to certain ideas in the story. The first one is, of course, the game elements. I get the author wanted to be faithful to certain mechanics of the game. And yes, that does lead to like some kind of comedy with how it implements the mechanics. Like there's a running gag that since Melia is not physically that strong, she has like she has the sphere break where she just, she turns her ether staff into like a little spear and she just kind of stabs an enemy. It's supposed to stun them, but hers basically just kind of gets them to limp. She tries it against a Mechon, and it's like, oh, she sees a little twitch, and then she just gets like completely mad because the thing just starts wailing on Rain, and she's like, get off him! She just kicks him and just sends the thing knocks the thing off. And she's like completely confused, and Rain's like completely confused, and Ricky, he would be confused, but he kind of got thrown off the cliff, and he's trying to just run around. It's like, oh, I need to get back to them. Ricky needs to get back. So Rain just asks Melia, it's like, what'd you do? I don't know what I did. You know what? We're gonna test it. Hit me. And basically Rain's like, you're gonna test what you did on me. And she goes, are you sure? Yes, I took kid from show. Come on. You can do it. Come on. Hit me. And she goes like, okay, and she like pokes him, like lightly pokes him in the leg with the head and the staff. It's like, well, that's not a topple. She goes like, oh, what'd you do? It's like, oh, I just kicked. It's like, well, then try that. And she like lightly kicks him. It's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, get in your mind. So it's like, arf. It's like, and she she does the wind up, and she does like the starlight kick, where she kind of just flies up in the air and just kicks right and just kind of knocks down. It's like, ah! And she lands on her, and Melia lands on her hook. It's like, ah, you did it! Ah! Sure, that's really just the standout moment, but largely the game mechanics are split into 2 parts. There are parts of it that are actually well implemented, which is a lot of what Melia does with her Aether Staff. It's very well executed how the author takes Melia's moveset and her specific mechanics and transforms them into a way that specifically believable, and also like the mechanics of like item gathering. Like there's a part where she's trying to like replace a gem in a dream catcher so she doesn't have nightmares, and she's like, oh, a a high rank gem is like somewhere up this area, and so she basically goes there and she senses where it is, but it's in like inside this cloud creature called Nebula, which is like this elemental cloud thing. And she realizes, oh, the bottle just kind of inadvertently swept it up. And she even explains that, oh, a lot of the times where you get these items from other enemies, it's just they're just wandering and grazing. They kind of just pick it up accidentally. I think that's really well executed now, even showing like how, and even showcasing how like the mechanics of certain different types of enemies can actually attack each other. I can't remember if that's an actual mechanic in a Xenoblade Chronicles. I believe it is. I'm trying to remember if yeah, it is. I believe it is. And like she has like another nebula attack the two nebulae and kind of just attack each other and take each other out. That's really well done. Even again, going back to Melia herself, her mechanics are really well executed, like showcasing like how her ether works, how like her healing gift, her elementals kind of float and leave passives for other people to kind of protect them. Those are all really well executed. What isn't executed is the more physical side of things. So like lock on and topple and stun and daze. It kind of is clunkily implemented on that side, which is kind of weird because like the magical side, that's fine. The physical side, that's not. It's it kind of and it kind of causes issues where enemies are trying to like do physical stuff to each other, and instead of like showcasing like, oh, them actually doing like poses or attacking, it just says move, 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 and you're just like, I don't know what the hell's going on. You're just describing the moves, which is very clunky. With Melia, it makes sense because she's largely a ranged character, and she's also a mage, so her attacks mostly exist of summoning elemental and it's throwing the elemental at whatever she's trying to target. That's basically that's how she functions. Granted, that's not how most people play. They just kind of go for the kick a lot. Don't ask me why they do that. They just do because it's reliable. They do. So her fighting style is very easy to write and make believable because again, it's just point like summon elemental point, it goes flying. And even when she's like on the defensive, is more developed and really relatable. Like when she fights the assassin, she's largely just, she's on the defensive and she's using the staff to block everything. And she has to grab her teacher staff to use that against it. And she was like, I'm gonna summon she summons a fire elemental right next to her, and even the assassin's like, you're not really gonna launch that, and she literally just tilts the staff to the point it actually collides with the assassin's face, thus exploding them both and both getting injured. It's really well done. Another thing that's not well done with the pacing is the Xenoblade Chronicles chapters. So chapters 1 to chapter 23, chapter 24, around here. No, chapter 1 to chapter 22, around here, are all before the events of Xenoblade Chronicles. Or before the events of Melia joining Xenoblade Chronicles, because I think like chapter 20, 21, and 22 happen at like the very beginning of Xenoblade Chronicles. Melia just doesn't get involved until a little bit later. I think she's like the fifth member of the entire crew, and like the only people that come after her are Ricky and Fiora. But with this type of story where there's so many cuts, again, you're telling a story over the course of 20 years, which is not like a pittance to Melia. And you're thinking, oh, the story just gonna end with, Melia going off to, Mac the Forest, which is where she joins with Shulk and everyone. And like, I don't know, maybe as like a sequel, which is like the events of Xenoblade Chronicles told from Melia's point of view, which wouldn't be a bad idea with how Melia is written here. The problem is the last couple of chapters is just such a bastardized take on Xenoblade Chronicles that it's just it honestly borders on assaulting, because of the simple fact that there's so much of the events of the game is cut out, which, you know, Melia is probably not that important to the plot of the game. No, she's arguably the most important character in the game next to Shulk. Shulk and Melia are the main characters. Like, everyone else is kind of just like a kind of background event. Even in Future Connected, which is like a DLC to Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Melia is the main character of that DLC. So, I don't why would the author skip so much of the events of Xenoblade Chronicles 1? I don't know. Because if there's like parts that, that don't really make sense to have her, and that's one thing. But when you skip her father's death, when you skip her finding out that the High Entia are Telethia, and the reason why they wanted her to become Empress is so that way they can try and convince people to kind of give birth to more High Entia Homs hybrids to prevent them from becoming Telethia, to, I don't know, the entire Lorithia boss, the entire Lorithia fight, to her brother dying, to her, like, the author took 2 chapters out for the Colony 6 restoration side quests, and the author couldn't put anything regarding her father, her brother in it. And then it skips so much of the events. It's like, why add this? You could have just, like, it literally, you could have ended it right here, like at chapter 22, where the end of the chapter is just basically more or less just the Telethia attacking Melia after her and her troops land in Magna Forest. They fight the Telethia. The Telethia kills all her troops, knocks Melia out. Then she gets rescued by Shulk, and then you can make a sequel to kind of tell the events of the game starting from here. You could have just done that. It would made all the sense in the world, and a story like this would have made a lot of sense to just have a sequel like this. But instead, it's just constant skips throughout so much important stuff. Sure, not everything fits. Not every single cutscene would fit for Melia, because again, her and Shulk are the main characters. So if it's not focusing on Melia, it's focusing on Shulk. So it makes sense that, parts that focus more on Shulk would probably be ignored. There's so much on Melia's side of the plot of the game that it just makes no sense to just skip so much of it, and instead just have them be random stuff. Granted, you get the Starlight Cake joke out of it, which is something, but it's not really worth 6 chapters of nothing. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, but the fact that but honestly, you could easily you can just not read the rest of the story here, because you can just end it here. It does honestly feel like a cliffhanger, especially if you're going for a Melia's whole life story type of deal with her growth and becoming who she is. It would make more sense to just have the Xenoblade Chronicles be its own story. So yeah, I don't have, besides this and some of the game mechanic and the physical game mechanics, I think there's nothing else wrong with the story. I don't have a problem with the plot. I have a problem with Melia's character. Melia's character is really well done. I have no issues with that. I would 100% recommend this story. Honestly, it is worth the read. Even again, even these last couple chapters, sure, they don't make a lot of sense to add, but they're still written really well. So I'm not gonna complain that much on them. Do I have a favorite part? Probably Melia's escape from the mob boss. There's a part where right here, chapter 19, uh where she's just random. Hold on. No, I double checked. It was chapter 20. My bad. I went a chapter too late. Where she's just kidnapped by a traitorish soldier for like a bunch of mob bosses that want to take her for who want to ransom, and she's like, "I'm just gonna get out of here." They even have, and she has like a some troops which are the bullies that chase after her a couple times throughout the story, working for her. They come in, she knocks them out. She takes this camera. It's like, oh, I'm gonna use this. She puts it on her shoulder and she like records herself just kicking everyone's ass and just completely just curb stomping an entire mob syndicate. It's actually kind of entertaining how it happens, and then we get the end where like where the guy is like, "Oh yeah, oh I'm not gonna go because I can just fly out. You get a little accident, set the entire building on fire. You're gonna get out. Like you're not gonna get out. Yeah, you're gonna die. There you go. Bye bye." And she goes, "Where? Oh, you're gonna jump?" And she like go into her window and she like suddenly put her hand in, like a bag where to like this button that where her ship goes, because she actually has her own ship. Then she can press the button to call it. It's like, "Oh, you're gonna try go about 12 stories down?" No, just about a meter. And she already has the button pressed. And so she gets out, she lands immediately on the craft, and the guy's like panicking. He runs out to come after her, and she like turns around and zaps him in the wings with a bolt elemental. It's like he just falls to the ground. It's like I think it's just very entertaining. It showcased how far she came to the story. She how much she went throughout the story, and taking those lessons that she learned previously and applying them to a real world situation. I think it's all really well done. Uh is there anything I would change? I would want the game mechanic. I would want all the fights to be reworked to kind of not include game mechanics, specifically just the physical ones. Again, the ether ones make sense to work out, but the physical ones not really. And the other thing is have all the Xenoblade stuff. Just have it be its own story, because you can tell there's literally a story right here that is literally just a follow up to this that takes place during the events that artistic focus skips. Why? It just like you have a story that already does this for this, so why not just have it in here? You could just out of here. Nope, wrong button. Sorry, ignore that. So yeah, pressed the wrong button. I meant to. I don't know. It just and I just realized I'm a goofy. I'm laughing too much at like the silliness of the whole thing. It's just so confusing. You already have a sequel. Why not just put this into there? And so that is artistic focus. I like the story. I think if you're a fan of Melia, like I am, I sincerely would say go check out the story. Maybe check out Alternative Goddess. I'll see you next time. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.